Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on CKM Music, our intro for tonight. And very good evening to everyone. Thank you for clicking on. Always an honor to have you here and clicking on to the channel. DUFUS After Dark. I'm still a little bit under the weather. I'm having some sinus stuff, having some chest stuff, having some wonkiness going on. So we will press on and get through everything. Uh, CKM Music, good to see you, man. Um, what up, Troy? Hi, Trish. Breeway or hit the MF Freeway. Hi, Shelly, Judy Davis, Tanya. Thank you all for being here. Everybody in the chat, everybody watching along, um, at a later time, not watching live. I appreciate everybody for clicking on. A lot going on. For those that were paying attention here just a little bit ago, and if you didn't pay attention, go and check out Lori Arnold. Lori was covering a rather unique protest today in Fort Worth, Texas. So if you haven't checked that out, go check out Lori Arnold. As there was I think it was an all ages drag show, and and supporters and counter protesters. So that was going on today, and I forgot I was going to say something else, and I forgot something else happened today, and it totally popped out of my mind. My apologies. As I said, I'm feeling a little bit wonky today. A lot of stuff's been happening, and we'll get to that news coming up here soon. I remember what I was going to say. Lori Arnold was covering the protest, and during the protest, the people were chanting something, and honestly, I had the audio on as I was somewhere else doing something else, and I could hear them chanting, and I thought they were saying "donate beer," and I honestly did. I thought they were saying "donate beer," but it was a different, again, a different sort of protest, and I think rather indicative of what's going on across our country. Um, a lot of angst, a lot of people just waiting for a reason to kick off, and that's troubling to me anyway. As I said, we got a lot of news to talk about. We've talked about some stuff last night, and again, thank you for clicking on. If you're with us, I'll be over in the chat here in a little bit and get started here in the news in a little bit. But just know there is a lot going on around the world. Specifically, a lot going on in Israel and the Middle East, and it's always a potential trigger spot. Normally, this time of the year, things start to kick off between Israel and the Palestinians, almost on cycle year by year. But this time things are a little bit different in Israel, and they're in some people's minds, they too are on the verge of a civil war, like some people believe here in the United States. Some people in the United States have even said we in the United States are in civil war. It's just a Cold War, and there's no active fighting yet. I really hope that those definitions are wrong. Sorry. Okay. But nonetheless, they are out there. So once again, thank you all for being here. Hi, LePreux, GA from CA. Cunning Stunt and GA from CA are going to be with us Wednesday night at the regular time slot. We'll be on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. and look forward to having those two ladies on back on their regular time slot. Always a great time when those two are with us. Mwah. Love you, GA. Cunning, love you. Mwah, if you're out there watching. And again, they'll be on Wednesday night. Tomorrow night's going to be science night. I'm going to touch on a couple of science things tonight simply because we have to, but we're going to get in depth on a couple of things tomorrow night, science night. And tonight, Mondays have generally been where we talk about some stories. We talk about some things you may not know of, may not know a lot about or know anything about, and brief portions of history that sometimes get overlooked, and we're going to do that tonight. I sure hope you're right, Tanya. I think it'd be absolutely ludicrous, but the times we live in. So let's hop into the breaking news, as we always start out with, and see what's going on headline wise in the mainstream. I'm going to save the NBC News story here for the last. CNN Netanyahu says he will delay his judicial overhaul, but will that be enough for peace in Israel? Again, a lot is happening in Israel, and if you're a Bible scholar, you know that anytime anything happens in Israel, and you have any faith in any kind of prophecies at all, well, it's always something to pay attention to. Los Angeles Times headline. Sorry. Oh, excuse me. Los Angeles Times headline: runaway train with no passengers has derailed in San Bernardino. That happened about 5 hours ago. NPR headline: at the Supreme Court, when is immigration advice a crime? That came from 2 hours back. The Bay Area of California storm timeline. Here comes the heaviest rain and strong winds. They'll be coming on Tuesday, tomorrow. Again, strong winds, heavy rain coming again tomorrow to California, specifically the Bay Area. Okay. CBS Philadelphia. I know I got some people that watch from Philadelphia. I got some Philly people that I was really fortunate enough to meet back in 2016 when we were out at the national convention. And plus, we got some Philly people that are relatively, fairly new to the DUFUS channel, and love you all. But Philadelphia tap water is safe to drink until tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. So if if you're from Philly and you hadn't heard that yet, you might want to do a little investigation. Their tap water is safe to drink until Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. I know a lot of people don't have put a whole lot of faith, if you will, in tap water of any kind. So some other stories that weren't in those highlights, and actually we're going to get in depth about this. As you can see, Marjorie Taylor Greene blames Biden and other gun grabbers, quote unquote, for the Nashville school shooting. Okay, I wanted to post that up there, and then we will pop back to this. At least 3 children killed in shooting at a private Christian elementary school. Sorry, I'm getting texts. At least 3 children killed in shooting at a private elementary school in Nashville. Local hospital confirmed the shooter was killed by police, and 3 students, 3 adults killed in the shooting at a private Christian elementary school. Police say the shooter is also dead. Let me run that right. Okay. Sorry. Let's go. Here we go. All right. That's not what I wanted. Why is that up there? Well, hold on a second. Why is this not coming up? There we go. Okay. For some reason, this wouldn't have up. The shooter was a 28-year-old female with 2 AR-style weapons, one a pistol, one a long rifle by definition, and then a second pistol. So 2 pistols, one of which was an AR style. And this is the latest reports I've been getting. Three teachers, 3 adults, all in their 60s, were killed. 3 children, all 9 years old, were killed. The shooter was killed. And depending on who you talk to, and by who you talk to, I mean, depending on which reference you look at, it is okay. It is either the 128th, 129th, or 135th mass shooting in the United States in 2023. It's just a matter of how the 3 different groups define what a mass shooting is, and whether the shooter being a victim is counted. But at any rate, there's no other country in the world that has this problem. A lot of other countries have a lot of problems. Mass shootings isn't generally one of them. Going to give you a little something to think about here. This was humor, okay? As you can see, or hopefully you can see, this is from 1968. Okay, that was 54 years ago. 54 years ago. This was humor. 54 years ago, Pat Paulson running a fake campaign for president and talking about gun control.
A lot of people are shooting off their mouths about gun control. I believe that the solution to this problem lies in adopting a uniform law giving everyone an equal chance. One suggestion would be to either prohibit the possession of firearms or buy a gun for everyone, let them wear it. But let's not be guilty of oversimplification. If we outlaw all firearms, it will merely cause other problems. First, without guns, how can we shoot anybody? Well, let's face it, we need guns. You never can tell when you're walking down the street, you'll spot a moose. Suppose a man goes home early and finds another man with his wife. What's he supposed to do, poison him? Hey, fella, get up from there and drink this strychnine.
The point, we've been talking about it for a long, long time. We've made fun of it. I don't have an answer. I think I may be like a lot of people, and I'm tired of asking the questions. Let me repeat. 3 adults, all 60, 61, and 62, I believe. This is not counting the 28-year-old female shooter. 3 children, 9 years old. And within a few days, we'll forget and there'll be another one. I don't know. It's I've got grandkids, and at some point there's going to be a mass shooting somewhere near you, if it hadn't already happened. We are, it's one thing to have guns in your country. It's another thing to have incredible instability and emotional upheaval. And a lot of the emotional upheaval is stoked by people who are spreading lies, basically. And there's so much other stuff going on, such as, we're going to get into depth a little bit more on the science night. Asteroid the size of 33 armadillos to pass Earth Sunday. I thought maybe, it'd be time for a little bit of a laugh. Armadillo's about that big, so 33 of them. While it would still be a significant size space rock, my question is, I'm thankful they labeled them under armadillos because I needed a little bit of a chuckle, but couldn't you find a more possibly significant measurement? Just something to think about. North Korea has fired a ballistic missile towards the East Sea. South Korean military reported that came in March 27th so it was actually 7:06 p.m. their time, and happened earlier today, our time. I got a couple of conflicting reports here. Trump sends a warning to Russia, China, and Iran, and he says they will respect us. This comes from Newsweek. Now, I didn't, hold on a second. For some reason, I pushed the wrong button. Let me get that up there. I apologize, everybody. Honestly, I got a massive headache going on, and you're not supposed to talk about stuff like that when you're not feeling well. But I do apologize if I'm making any major errors here. Here we go. Trump sends warning to Russia, China, and Iran. Says they will respect us. Donald Trump issued a warning for some of the U.S. biggest adversaries when he accuses them of dividing up the world. My question is why? Why is Donald Trump even speaking about this? Barack Obama's not speaking about this. George W. Bush, no other former presidents are getting in the way of the actual American government. One person is, and just something to think about. Now, while he's telling them that they will respect us, he also says in the same Newsweek, Trump tells Americans to pray after Putin reveals nuclear weapons plan. So, which is it? Is it they will fear us, or is it we need to pray and fear them? Again, just some of the craziness that actually is going on in our country. One more thing here before I hop over into the chat. A second giant hole has appeared on the sun, and it could send 1.8 million mile per hour solar winds towards Earth. Again, just a couple of just one other science thing we're going to talk a little bit about tomorrow night. This indeed is a massive hole that is facing Earth, and there have been no CMEs or anything, but there will be solar wind impact. It's a pretty big hole too, to be honest with you. And again, we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that tomorrow night on Science Night. I'm gonna hop back over here to the chat real quick. Let's see. Hi, G. Abbott. Okay. Let me find the little thing here where I can scroll up. Oh, again, apologies. Patton McCrotch, Sandy Foster, Christine M. And hello, Spoon. I am, Spoon. I'm going to bail a little bit early. And Telly's going to come on in a little bit as well. When did armadillos become a measurement? Yeah, exactly, Cunning. That was my thing. 33 armadillos. Is that is that the length of a Volkswagen, or I don't know. Hi, Lori K. Yeah, a lot of mental illness. And the fact that we as a nation, especially when it comes to insurances, we have very little respect for the amount of problems that mental and emotional issues can have, in my opinion. Troy says, let's ban ex-wives. Lonnie, grill a chicken for an hour and it still wouldn't tell me why it crossed the road. Just like Mexico will pay for the wall. Yes, another. Yeah. Max Flower, a good friend of mine, we were having a conversation the other day, and he was like, why does the media pay so much attention to Trump? And it's because it sells. It's because there are so many whether they're viewed as delusional or whatever, I mean, he has people that are willing to die for him, willing to kill for him, and that's a scary thing that we need to be aware of. However, it sure seems like the media gets fixated on him, and that just keeps empowering him. So, I get it. Hi, She-Hawk. Thank you. Christine M. Yes, your glasses, Christine M., are back here. I talked about them briefly last night, and again, thank you. We're going to try to get them. We're going to try to get them to telescopes since that's more appropriate. But if we can't, they'll have a home up there. And again, thank you for that. And Lori K., thank you again for the cross. Thank you for everybody that put a few bucks into the Cashapp, especially when I was off I was off almost the entire month of March, but we're back, and hopefully we're going to be back. So I do want to do the feature for tonight, and I'm going to put it on. And while I have it on, I'm going to run and get some water and try to blow my nose out a little bit. I know that's way too much information, but I have a tendency to do that. And what we're going to talk about tonight is, again, something that we do on Mondays. We've in the past, we've dug into Laurel Canyon, and I've got some more on that as well that we're going to get into. And I've done this once before in the past, but I've had a few requests actually to touch base on this again. And this is the story of John Sinclair and the White Panther Party. A lot of people weren't even aware there was such a thing as the White Panther Party. The White Panther Party, as you might guess, was an extension of the Black Panther Party, in that it was all white people that were in line with trying to provide equal rights and trying to provide protection for the Black community. And with that said, let's roll it. And I will be back in just a couple of minutes.
White Panther program is cultural revolution by any means necessary. We've drawn up a 10-point program. The first point is full endorsement and support for the Black Panther Party's 10-point program. Point 2 is total assault on the culture by any means necessary, including rock and roll, dope, and fucking in the streets.
We did not make the laws in this country. We are neither morally nor legally confined to those laws. Those laws that keep them up keep us down. You got to begin to understand that.
John Sinclair was put away for 10 years for possessing 2 marijuana joints. He spent 2 years of it in prison, virtually in isolation, in solitary.
John Sinclair is best known as the 60s marijuana activist who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for giving 2 joints to an undercover policewoman. He was eventually freed when John Lennon and Yoko Ono spoke out on his behalf. What is less understood is his role as the founder and chairman of the radical anti-war group, the White Panther Party, an offshoot of the Black Panthers. The Black Panther Party was a militant political organization formed after the murders of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Robert Kennedy.
This nation is in a state of turmoil perhaps unparalleled in our history. Poverty amidst wealth, widespread racism, and bewilderment over a strange war are the seeds of the revolution.
The Black Panther Party must develop still a power base.
Whenever the people disagree with the political decisions that have been made upon their heads, that whenever the people disagree with those political decisions, the racist power structure sends in guns and swords to see that the people accept those political decisions. But we are here as revolutionaries to let them know that we refuse to accept those political decisions that maintain the oppression of our black people and other people in the world.
These racist Gestapo pigs have to stop brutalizing our community, or we're going to take up guns, we're going to drive them out.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
During the Cold War, the U.S. government launched a secret program called COINTELPRO to disrupt and ultimately destroy the Black Panthers and the anti-war movement. As part of this program, John Sinclair was set up and imprisoned on marijuana charges. When the government could no longer justify denying him a bond over 2 joints, they falsely charged him with a federal conspiracy to blow up a CIA station in order to make him disappear. In this case, we find the secret origins of so much that troubles us today, like classifying dissidents as terrorists, or the use of warrantless wiretaps and indefinite detention. The things that were revealed during John Sinclair's case are what the U.S. government would prefer history forget.
was charged with being a member of a conspiracy to blow up the CIA recruiting office off the University of Michigan campus in Ann Arbor with 2 other guys who won't to this day admit whether they did it or not, but I wasn't really part of this. I was a case of mistaken identity. Because there was a guy who was at a meeting who was the brother of one of the other defendants, but he looked like me and we both had long brown hair and beards. And so they used that to place me in the conspiracy. Well, basically the ploy to put me in this was to keep me from ever getting a bond, because now I was a violent person who blew up shit. Well, before that I'd just been an advocate of blowing up shit. So we advanced under the free speech laws, you know. But these guys actually blew this shit up. It was it was in what we called in those days an active armed propaganda. The CIA was forbidden by law from being active within the continental United States, within the statutory United States. They weren't supposed to operate inside the country at all. Well, we found that, of course, on college campuses they had active recruiting efforts in offices, and they tried to get the best and the brightest of the young people to join the CIA, really combat communism and advance the causes of liberty and freedom, which the CIA was charged with protecting and advancing. So we thought this was really quite a severe contradiction that they were there on the campus where they weren't even supposed to be doing this. And in those days, even till the end of the 60s, the CIA was a very clandestine operation, even after they killed the president and Martin Luther King and all these other people, and Bobby Kennedy. They were still had a lot of cover. And so one of our goals as the White Panther Party was to uncover the CIA and their presence in our midst and their influence on things and what they meant really in terms of world domination by the United States. Consequently, these guys, somebody, blew up, put a couple of sticks of dynamite in front of the door of this office. When they went off, police and the news reporters would have to find out what was behind that door. And this really caused quite a great furor, for which we were very happy. And then we took the Abbott Hoffman influenced defense maneuver of charging the CIA with the crimes. We called our trial the CIA conspiracy trial. The CIA is a conspiracy against the people of America. We got Bill Kunstler and Leonard Weinglass to represent us right after the Chicago 7 trial. And we filed a flurry of motions in the court, federal court, before Judge Damon Keith. We drew the judge who was like the dream judge for us, a black left-wing activist judge, now a federal judge, appointed by John F. Kennedy. And so we've advanced these motions before him. One was for, is there any evidence obtained or have any of the defendants been wiretapped? And another was, they just passed the 18-year-old vote. And of course, part of the White Panther Party concept was that youth was a class, another idiotic mental construct I came up with. Of course they aren't a class, they're just youth, they're passing through. But we thought we were on acid, you know. We kind of foreshadowed that horrible reactionary philosophy they developed in the 80s about history is over, you know. We've blasted through history, you know. It's always going to be like this now. Well, not the case. Sad to say. That one we brought Allen Ginsberg and Julian Bond to testify that youth was indeed different. And we won that one. So.
In the state of Mississippi, many years ago, a boy of 14 years got a taste of Southern law. He saw his friend a-hangin', his color was his crime, and the blood upon his jacket put a brand upon his mind.
But in the end, we won a ruling on our motion about the wiretaps. And the prosecution came forward, that is to say the Nixon Justice Department came forward and said, yes, we have information on one of the defendants that was obtained by wiretap. It doesn't have anything to do with the case. And we can't tell you who the wiretap was on because it's a matter of national security. So what do you mean? They say, well, you know, when Bill Rehnquist was in the Justice Department, he helped us draft this policy called the National Security Wiretap, for which you wouldn't need a warrant. If the president says this is a matter of national security, he could tap you without a warrant. Nixon, man, what a character. The committee to re-elect the president, creep. That was about as good as it got in the Nixon era. With John M. Mitchell, head creep, you know. Boy, were they a rough bunch, man. You think you're up against some guys now, these guys, well, they're rougher now because they know how to do it. But these guys were inventing it, you know what I'm saying? They were like, Nixon. That goddamn Nixon, as we always called him. So Judge Keith, being the sort of individual that he was, ruled that the government had to disclose this wiretap, and in fact ruled that there was no such thing permitted under the U.S. Constitution as a warrantless wiretap. That's why you had the Fourth Amendment. And the government ended up appealing this all the way to the Supreme Court. The government appealed it. And we won 8-0 in the Supreme Court. And they say, and I hesitate even to report this because it seems like such a case of self-aggrandizement, but they say our case was decided on a Friday afternoon, but they didn't release it to the press until Monday morning. And they say that during this weekend, Justice Rehnquist may well have called his comrades in the Justice Department and warned them that this ruling was going to be issued Monday morning, and that if they had any national security wiretaps in place, now would be the time to get them out so that on Monday they could say that they had none. And that Saturday night was when they were in the Watergate Hotel removing the wiretaps from the Democratic National Committee office. second year and a half in Jackson prison in the, what they called the Triple O ward. No, you were locked up 23 hours a day. No interaction with the main population. I never entered the main population at Jackson, the world's largest walled prison.
They kept you in SAG the whole time?
Yeah, every minute.
Yeah.
And then when we started the federal litigation, this was the worst part of the whole sentence. They would, and you would understand this as an ex-convict, they would send me back to the Wayne County Jail so I could meet with my lawyers and be there for the hearings in the federal court. And so I'd have to pack up my prison possessions and be taken in chains back to the Detroit County Jail, Wayne County Jail, like hell itself. And then I would spend 2 months at a time in there. Yeah, Jesus, I hate to even think about that. It's just such a depressing thing.
We're waiting here for you to get out.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm waiting to come out, you know. They passed that bill yesterday, and I think that it's going to happen, you know. It's going to happen. It's got to. People are just too deep into it. I'm too excited. I'm shaking. I don't know what to say. I just want to come home.
Oh, that was rough, man. Because, you know, the county jail is purposely run as a brutal institution as part of the pressure on the convict to cop to a felony charge, and then they can be free to go to the state penitentiary where they can have half of a life, you know. No life in the county jail. Anyway, when I think of that period, that's the overwhelming part to me, was going back to that motherfucker, man. Anyway, it's coming to the end of 1971. All the time I've been incarcerated, I've been actively involved with my group of people, which were the White Panther Party. And then in 1971, we transmogrified ourselves into the Rainbow People's Party. We thought that we had pretty much done everything we could to alienate ourselves from our potential mass base by taking up this violent imagery of the Panthers. And we thought, this isn't really advancing our cause too well, and we had 3 of our main guys in prison. One of them had been on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list. So we became the Rainbow People's Party. We advanced the idea of rainbow, of everyone getting along together. Real hippie thing. Because the hippie movement had become a mass movement by then. College students were hippies. When I went to prison in '69, college students were squares. They were frat boys and football players and drinkers and squares, short hairs, you know. And when I came out 2.5 years later, they were all hippies, which was kind of mind-boggling. But my people have been trying to tell me this, you know. Of course, I'm in a prison with a bunch of criminals. Not a hippie in sight, you know. Because they weren't sending hippies to prison then, yet. Pretty much. You pretty much had to have committed a crime. That's why I stood out for my sentence, because it was obvious that they nailed me on some technicality for a bigger crime with which they couldn't charge me. Sedition or treason or whatever, you know. I'm very proud of this because I was very intimately involved, not only with my own defense, but also as the chairman of our party. And if you look in my archives at the University of Michigan Bentley Historical Library, you'll find reams of letters. I wrote 7 single-spaced typewritten pages home every night for 2.5 years.
Everybody's gotta get it down together, take it back as a normal way. Don't think about tomorrow, just think about today.
You know, the thing I hate about this whole thing is it comes down in history that I was this terrible victim. But I wasn't really a victim. I just looked at this as part of my job. If you're going to be a revolutionary, you were going to have to go to prison. Lenin went to prison. Ho Chi Minh was in prison. All the great people went to prison. Charlie Parker went to prison. Gene Ammons did 7 years for heroin. You know, I mean, Dexter Gordon was in. Yeah, Lenny Bruce did time. I mean, it was just part of your job. And I had a beautiful support system, and my wife, Lenny, and my brother, David, were key members of the organization. So I was buoyed and held up by these people that I worked with, you know, who worked ceaselessly to get me out, ceaselessly. And part of it being rock and rollers. Of course, the MC5 had defected just before I went to prison, and they decided they didn't want to do this anymore. Certainly their prerogative.
Dig out the dance, motherfucker!
So every week, virtually, for 2.5 years, there was some kind of rock and roll method in my behalf, whether it drew 100 people or 1,000 people. And all the little money that came, they would give it to us, and we'd give it to the lawyers, or use it for survival of the group.
Oh, dear John Sinclair, we celebrate your liberty tonight.
We organized the biggest event we had ever done. And a friend of ours was now working for the University of Michigan as the head of their office of major events, trying to teach them how to put on rock and roll shows and make money with them. Whereas when I was out there, we used to have to sue the University of Michigan every time we wanted to put the MC5 in one of their facilities. Well, now they realized that it was going to be big business, so they hired Peter M. Andrews to show them how to do it. Well, because of this, he had access to the university facilities. And through some miracle, we formed a student organization, and we rented the basketball arena, 14,400 seat Chrysler Arena, to put on a show to free John Sinclair on December 10th, 1971. In the course of organizing, trying to attract people that would draw a huge crowd, because we had to get a huge crowd to show that, you know, it was a political thing. You know, you had to show that you were winning in order to win. And in the course of it, we had a miracle happen. Our friend Jerry Rubin had become close with John Lennon and Yoko Ono. And he suggested to them that he was going to Ann Arbor to play. He told them about my case, and he said he was coming to Ann Arbor to play on my behalf, and maybe they'd like to come too. And they said maybe we would, and they did.
We came here not only to help John and to spotlight what's going on, but also to show and to say to all of you that apathy isn't it, and that we can do something. This song I wrote for John Sinclair. 1, 2, 3, 4. It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the step of breathing air. Won't you care for John Sinclair, in the step of breathing air? Let him be, set him free, let him be like you and me. I gave him 10 for 2, what else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him. If he was a soldier man, shooting gooks in Vietnam, if he was the CIA, selling dope and be free, they'd let him be, breathing air like you and me. They gave him 10 for 2. What else can Judge Columba do? Was he jailed for what he done, or representing everyone? Free John now, if you can, from the clutches of the man. Let him be, lift the lid, bring him to his wife and kids. Alright, they gave him 10 for 2. What else can the bastard do? We got to set him free, free.
And all of a sudden, everybody was on my side. It was the most beautiful and rapid, swift transformation. And after that, things, you know, he wrote a song for me. He came and played at the headline this big show. And 3 days later, they let me out on appeal bond, which was a very mythological situation. Yeah. I mean, apart from the personal effect on me, the happiest moment of my life, by far. And I've had a lot of happiness. Don't get me wrong. But also, yeah, we thought this was a brilliant victory on our part, and that our rhetoric had been justified and endorsed by the results. We said you could take rock and roll and use it to change the world and do good things, and all of a sudden, John Lennon gets me out of prison, you know. So we worked off of that for the next couple of years, trying to organize hippies into a political force. So I went trying to herd cats, you know. I gave it everything I had, and I concluded in the end that it was impossible. And by that time, in '75 or so, when I kind of gave up on this, the war was over. Nixon had been thrown out of office. The first oil crisis had occurred, and they raised all the prices on it. They doubled the cost of life in America overnight. And this incidentally started this whole thing that they've got 2 wars going on now for, the oil thing. So by the end of '75, you know, the hippies, it was over for hippiness. You had to get a job. And of course, you get a job, you had to cut your hair, and that's when they had the drug tests, and they had the whole thing. So the hippie movement kind of ran afoul on the grounds of economic determinism, you know. It's a beautiful period, though. I pray that it comes back before I croak. I pray for the young people every year that they take some acid and discover that you can change this shit, that you don't have to just eat it, you know. Not much evidence so far, though. So I just quit at that time. And then in general, and this was the end of a process that had taken a couple of years. And then I just realized that these people didn't want to have the kind of world that I had fought so valiantly and so long. I made so many sacrifices in my personal life because I thought that it would be a beautiful thing if we could all have this world. And I realized that that wasn't the world they wanted. They wanted to have a job. They wanted to have a car. They wanted to live in the suburbs and bring their kids up and then go to all-white schools, you know, and the whole thing. I said, well, they can do that, but I'm not going to. So I just reconnected with the kind of beatnik poetry life I had, beatnik poetry and jazz life I had before I got involved in the struggle, so to speak, the political struggle. It was always a struggle. I regard myself as an example of what Ho Chi Minh said when he commented that men who come out of prison can build up the country. If I had to do it again, fight the law, not snitch on anybody, not plead guilty, I'd do it again. I mean, I think I would. I don't know. I'm old now. I gave up a lot more then than I would now, you know. I had a child and a child on the way, so now my kids are 40 and 43. So I could do it now. I could go do some time. Because, I read and I make radio shows. If I had a computer, I could do time easy. I do time. I live like in a cell wherever I am. You know, I have a little room where I'm lucky I have my own room. And it's like my cell. And I got my old books and my records and I got everything on my hard drive. I don't require much. So I'm still having a great time.
Hello?
John, okay, here's John. You're on tape now.
Yeah. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello, John?
Yeah.
Great. So there you are, right?
Right.
Here we are.
Really?
Great.
Yes.
So what happened?
I don't know, man. They just told me to go.
It's beautiful. Great.
That thing, you know, I did it, man.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan, man, they granted a bond on their own motion.
Beautiful.
They made it up themselves.
Great. Very clever of them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's great, isn't it?
How's Yoko?
Oh, she's fine. They used her.
Oh, great. Very good.
Hello, John.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Well, look, we're so glad, it really gave us hope and everything.
Hello.
I mean, it became like history, right?
Really? I heard you on the radio.
Well, because it gave us all an incentive, you see. The people in New York and all that were very down mood just when we came here.
Yeah.
And, we felt like this large generation is over and nothing's going to happen, right?
Right.
But we can start all over again, right?
It's beautiful. It was a victory, man, just like that.
Yeah, it's never too late to start, you see.
Right.
That was the White Panther Party, the documentary, The History of the White Panther Party, The Legacy of John Sinclair. And again, one of those historic moments that possibly not a lot of people were aware that even happened. So, that's what we like to do here. Show some obscure things you're not going to see on other platforms, other channels, other shows, however you want to refer to what we do on here. And tomorrow night will be our science night, as we normally do on Tuesday. We'll have some science heavy stuff tomorrow night, as we tend to do on Tuesdays here. And for some reason, there we go. Yeah, well, thank you, Sassy. I hope it was interesting. If it wasn't, then, we lost viewers. But, that's what we do. We show things that not everybody's going to be interested in everything we show. That's why the internet is so big and so vast and has so many different options, is because that affords us showing things that you're not always going to see. And we like to do that on here. And again, tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about some science stuff. Thank you, GA. I hope it was interesting. I hope some people got something out of it. And again, Wednesday night, Cunning Stunt and GA from CA will be on, as they have been weekly in the past. And we look forward to returning to that. We just got back on. We're back after basically being away for the entire month of March. So looking forward to rolling things along here this week. Tomorrow night, Science. Wednesday night, GA and Cunning will be with us. Thursday night, we're going to try to do game night again. And we might even do game night with Melvis. We might have Mel back on Thursday night. We've been talking about it among a lot of other things. So we'll see how it goes. Telescope, How to Ruin the Beatles. John Lennon used to beat up his ex-wife. Okay. Telly, you going to go on? You going to pop on here in a few minutes? If so, we'll let everybody know. I want to thank everybody for being here always, and especially for hanging tonight. I've been going through some, I feel better now than I did like midway through the show. I still got a little wacky feeling in the stomach, but midway through the show, sinuses started draining really bad, and I started getting these floaters in my eyes and having trouble focusing and stuff. So, feeling a little better now, but I'm going to go lay down for a bit, and Telly's going to go live. So we'll pop over there. I'll pop in over. I'm not going to be talking or anything more than likely over there, but I'll pop in and listen and read the chat. Up the revolution, up the revolution. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's odd that it is kind of, we can see the same kind of thing, only it's not the left rising up as we saw in that documentary about the White Panthers and John Sinclair. It's more the right rising up, and with some of the same sentiments and some of the same attitudes that those so-called hippies had back in 1968. Again, just something to think about. Thank you, Cunning. I will. I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to, I've taken some Tylenol, and I'm going to drink some liquids, and I'm going to go out and lay down on the couch and listen to Telly and you all, and maybe pop in the chat. Thank you, Sassy. Feed a fever, starve a cold. Yeah, I think I kind of got both. I've been running a little bit of fever. I don't know if it's a cold or if it's something else, but man, my cough is just horrific and painful. So thanks Mater, thanks Lonnie, thanks Al Munson, Sassy, everybody that's in the chat, everybody that's watching online, not in the chat, everybody watching at a later period. Thank you all so much. It's humbling. It's a blessing. It's an honor to be able to get on and do this and have people watch. And I greatly appreciate all of you. We'll be back tomorrow night at 9. Telly's coming up next on the Telescope channel at Oxford Telescope. If you haven't been there, I'll get you right to the channel. And until tomorrow night at 9, shalom, assalamu alaikum, blessings be upon you, namaste, peace, love, positive vibrations. It's a major dark world, and try to be a light. The world needs more lights. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks again for tuning in. It's been the American Doofus channel, Doofus After Dark, with the White Panther Party. See you tomorrow.